really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess, screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It is a hell of a plan you guys have to hang. You know, it's funny, right? It's going to get warmer, but it's going to continue to be wet. I would take the warmth, though. Rest of the week, maybe next 5, 6 or so days, I will take that over the cold and the snow anytime. But yeah, today weather-wise is a bit forgettable, without question. We are all good. Are we counting down until the 4 o'clock hour to find out exactly what's happening with the Colts and Daniel Jones and the Colts and Alec Pierce? And you know me, I have to. This is my protocol. I can't help myself because I'm just not very bright. But I have to minimize. I have to simplify things. And for me, in this case, I am simplifying the situation. These guys are essential personnel. You know when they say, hey, only essential personnel today because the weather is bad. Because we don't want you out of the roads. Only essential personnel today. Both the quarterback and the wide receiver, they're essential personnel. I know that we're talking about a team that is mediocre beyond belief. And I know we're talking about a team that you don't have a great deal of belief in moving forward. However, this is where we are. You are staring at a group after 10 years of a general manager that is at the very end of producing or being gone. This is not me. For me, this has been years ago. I'm just laying claim now to where we are. So that's where we are with the general manager, and you've got a head coach in a similar boat. You have to pull the plug on a number of things coming up next year if things are the same or if things don't go well. And part of trying to, and I say this all the time because it's an old school word that I love, cobble together, because it seems like that would take forever. Cobbling sounds like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to cobble my shoes. Or I'm going to go to Dick's, the warehouse, and buy some for cheap. No, I'm going to cobble them. So right now you're cobbling together something in hopes of energizing a fan base that by now, long since by now, they're on to you. And they understand. And they're tired of it. And they're ready to move on. And in fact, they're probably ready not to sink a great deal of their disposable income into your product any longer. I know that sounded really weird and funny, and I'm sure I'll hear that again sometime. But that is the truth. So to double back where I started, something has to be done in terms of where we are right now. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise. Why are you moving forward? And by the way, James, once you fix the TV, which shouldn't be a part of your job criteria, but once you fix the TV behind me, make sure you follow this as well as I'm following this too. These are two things that are have-tos. Even if you don't have a great deal of deeply rooted belief in it. You follow me? These are have-tos. These are things that have to be done. And that is bringing back a quarterback, even if he's injured, and even if he's been injured before, and even if you have questions, even if you suggest the first 10 weeks and the competition and it's not as it seems. That has to happen. Why? Because, A, you don't have any other options. Riley Leonard is not an option, and Adam Schefter reporting the transition tag is going to Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones gets the transition tag as of right now. And we'll find out what they can ultimately do with Alec Pierce. So that is the latest. The Colts placing the transition tag on quarterback Daniel Jones. The transition tag is $37.83 million. Now, that is cheaper than the quarterback franchise tag. But now what this does is it gives Jones the opportunity to sign an offer sheet with another team that the Colts would ultimately have to match. So, with Daniel Jones now getting the transition tag, the Colts cannot tag free agent to be wide receiver Alec Pierce. But the Colts still hope, according to Schefter, to work out a long-term deal with both players. I know, again, I'm simplifying it, but these are just two have-tos. Because, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't do this, why are you jacking with any of it? Why are you running this staff back? Why are you running all of these personalities back? You don't need to do that if you don't have these two essential pieces. And you don't know if these two pieces are going to be a difference maker in winning or losing, but you do know if you have a chance of winning, they have to be a part of it. Because you don't have another option at quarterback. And because your option at quarterback is Daniel Jones, and you have to have Alec Pierce as a wide receiver. That's how I've simplified this. That's what you have to have. See, BT just sent me this too. So the Colts are mediocre, which is ridiculous. Why are you paying $38 million for an often injured quarterback? And that, again, brings up what I said. You don't have any other options. You don't have a first-round pick. Plus, I will say this, BT, they believe in Daniel Jones. Like, for those of us that are skeptical in our belief of his sustainability for a season or being what he was, for those of us that may be skeptical about that, the Colts firmly believe it. Now, I will tell you they have to. You have to believe it. You have to believe in Daniel Jones because you have nothing else to believe in. Last quarterback, by the way, with a transition tag, according to our folks and Eddie Garrison around here, will be the 96 Falcons with Jeff George. That's well done right there. We got to get Jeff George on the phone here. It's been a while. Hey, leave it to Colts to have to set new ground and territory for something like this. This is beautiful. But this is what you have to do to maintain any level of hope. And that's what's going on right now. I'm not trying to convince you that things are massively going to change whatsoever. But I am telling you what they're dealing with, and what you should understand right now is that is their belief and their hope. And without those two, you've got none of it. Again, the Colts are placing the transition tag on quarterback Daniel Jones. $37.8 million. That's more than $6 million cheaper than had they franchise tag Daniel Jones at the quarterback position. But now Jones has the opportunity to sign an offer sheet with another team that Indianapolis would then have. They'd have to back up monetarily if somebody jumps in. So this is not over by a long shot. Now, again, part of this is that the Colts hope to long-term both. So the franchise tag for Alec Pierce, or you can't franchise tag Alec Pierce now, so you're hoping to long-term Alec Pierce, or at some point you're just going to have to do that for both. It's funny. I thought all along it would be a franchise tag for Alec Pierce. And then ultimately you would find common ground with Daniel Jones on a long-term deal. Clearly, the market of Daniel Jones would seem to be a little bit more interesting than what a lot of us are led to believe. Crazy with me. But now you're right if you're thinking, wow, this does have to happen. And even with all of this happening and, the money you're going to spend and all this drama, you're not assured of anything. You have just as many questions as you did prior to. And that is where we are with Daniel Jones right now. And we'll follow it. Once again, according to Adam Schefter, the Colts are still hoping for a long term with both. But as of right now, the transition tag is on Daniel Jones. And we'll see. I guess we'll see if something gets done, and we'll see if anybody out there has any other interest in Daniel Jones. It is kind of funny to me, though. You have one good half of a season, which I guess is all that it takes here. And the only time really you've been any good, other than maybe 1 year with the Giants, is right now, and this is where you are. And above and beyond for Daniel Jones. The transition tag is where we are right now. So we got that to talk about, too. And again, I've oversimplified it already, I understand, but that's just kind of how we're going to go. That's the only real sense that makes. My point, again, is that if you don't have either one of these guys, or in this case, both of these guys, then why are you messing with any of it? And I know you guys get sick and tired of hearing about the whole run it back thing, because I do, too. Probably need a different phrase in this case, but why do you run anything back at this point if these guys aren't involved? Because you need these two guys to have success this season. And frankly, these two guys need each other to have success this season. Maybe not so much Alec Pierce. I think Alec Pierce could go anywhere and have success. But the Colts certainly need Alec Pierce for their downfield threat, and so does their transitionally tagged quarterback. They have to have that for a level of success. $37.8 million. But again, it's $6 million cheaper than the quarterback franchise tag. And they suggest that he is, the suggestion is that he is on schedule. For those that are kind of curious about, he's still compromised due to injury. They have suggested, or at least reports have suggested, that the expectation is that he is ready coming up for the start of the season. A medical marvel he is. Frankly, whatever works, but going through all this, and you've still witnessed with this team, this organization, what you have. I know that at times it is incredible to digest, but that's just where you are. By the way, if you haven't been paying attention, another national so-called reported target, Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson, not tagged. He's going to become an unrestricted free agent. We'll see if that ends up going anywhere whatsoever. But the big news as we start to show is that of the situation of the Colts and Daniel Jones. The transition tag, $37.8 million. And again, the sidebar to this, the opportunity to sign an offer sheet with another team that the Colts would have to match. Colts are in hope that both can be long-termed because now you've got a long-term Alec Pierce. Again, one without the other. Pierce can go anywhere and be Alec Pierce and make a wide receiving core. He is stratospherically valued in a market, in an open market like this. But to make anything work with this group, this crew right now, you really have to have both. Here, you have to have both. And that doesn't guarantee a damn thing either, as we have witnessed in the past. All right, full-scale discussion on that. Greg Rakestraw is going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour, the post-game show host of the Colts. We've got Greg starting out sectional play later on tonight. I think he's up in Noblesville for a couple of matchups. Greg's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. Rapheal Davis, the former Boilermaker, is going to join us. Is that 4 or 5? What time we got, James, for Rapheal?
As of right now, 4 o'clock.
As of right now, 4 o'clock. And we'll try to get some different angles for you as far as the Colts are concerned right here and see if anything changes. I was under the assumption yesterday that this just can't be as hard. The negotiation stuff is crazy to me. You got an injured quarterback that played half a season, and the half a season that you're going on, you can, in terms of poking holes in somebody's boat, you can do that with Daniel Jones as much as you can with the Colts. But again, all it takes is one. A lot of people have suggested maybe that one would be Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. But the interest level evidently is out there. The transition tag for Daniel Jones. And full-scale discussion on that. It seems like the NFL universe was kind of waiting on that to ultimately hit. And there we are. Meantime, the last quarterback transition tag, 1996, and that is a friend of the show, friend of Jake's too, Jeff George, the pride of Warren Central High School, 1996 with the Atlanta Falcons. All right, 239-1070. We can go over that if you guys like. I mentioned Greg Rakestraw is going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. I know I seem to, again, simplify it and make it sound silly, but it all sounds pretty silly to me if you're the Colts. This seems like it should. We know this to be true. There's nothing ever easy for the Colts. This seems like, to me, this should be an easy one. But evidently it is not. Or you know what they're going to say. They had everything under control and nobody was worried about anything because all along guys wanted to be here and we knew guys wanted to be here. That's the story you're going to get. But in the meantime, I think everybody that listens to the show, everybody that listens to Sports Talk Radio, and certainly if you're on social media, you probably don't quite believe that. Pretty funny. I mentioned Rapheal Davis, Big Ten Network, former Boilermaker at the top of the hour. So his thoughts on the Boilers moving into the final week of the regular season. Boilermakers coming up on Wednesday night on the road in Evanston. That's a double dip Indiana style, kind of like what you had on CBS this past Sunday. And that didn't work out for either team. We'll see if it works out better because IU is going to have Minnesota on their senior day, senior night in this case, at home in Bloomington. And then you're going to see Purdue and Northwestern in Evanston. The Boilermaker issues and moving forward from this, is this something that can quickly turn around? And if it can quickly turn around, then why has it not yet turned around? How many team meetings must you have to get everybody on the same page? How can you get everybody to like one another again? I'm assuming they do anyway. Just sometimes it doesn't seem so much like they enjoy playing with one another anymore. Yeah, if you're not living up to expectations, you're not digging what you're doing either. So it all kind of makes a little bit of sense right there. You'd think. All right, so Rapheal Davis going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as it stands right here. And more moving forward on the Colts situation with Daniel Jones. You guys believe that Daniel Jones in a full season of health? Again, you're crossing your fingers and hoping for that. Do you believe in him? Not just for a guy because you don't have anybody else and you have to run him out there. But do you honestly believe in him? Do you believe in him with Alec Pierce, without Alec Pierce? You believe in Daniel Jones? And I'm curious the answer to that beyond there's nobody else, which in general here is a pretty good angle to take because they don't have anybody else. I know, jokingly, yesterday we talked about Kyler Murray, which is funny. I'm sitting out in the hall, the damn people are bringing up Kirk Cousins. And while we all laugh, some people a year ago viewed Daniel Jones, and some people still may view Daniel Jones in a similar light. You buy it? You and I on the other side, Greg Rakestraw, coming up a little bit later on. Again, the news at the top of the show is that Daniel Jones is getting the transition tag, $37.8 million, which is cheaper by $6 million or so with the quarterback than the quarterback franchise tag. Now, Jones with the transition tag, the opportunity to sign an offer sheet with another team, and the Colts would have to match. Colts are hoping to long-term both he and Alec Pierce. That is indeed what the hope is right now. Daniel Jones getting the transition tag. The Colts can't tag free agent to be wide receiver Alec Pierce, which, as I mentioned, his market is legit. Incredibly popular. So we got a friendly going on with Team USA and the Baseball World Baseball Classic and the San Francisco Giants right now before me. Baseball getting started. Every day I come in here and you get a little spring training baseball. Now you got a little friendly going on. Team USA and the San Francisco Giants. Not bad. We got that. I mentioned Rapheal Davis a little bit later on, the college basketball. Benedict Mathurin for the first time against his old team coming up tomorrow night. If you watched any of the Clippers last night, the Clippers over the Warriors, Mathurin off the bench for 17 points. Had a really nice game and, in fact, has played very well so far in his time with the LA Clippers. And we are going to get a load of that for the first time. I'm assuming he is going to be trying tomorrow night very hard to go out there and do something incredibly special. I'm guessing. A lot of points, a lot of rebounds, a lot of playmaking against his old team. Now, that and more for you coming up, too. I've got Sting tickets at the old National Center to give away. Tucker Wetmore at Ruoff. That's a country music singer that you guys dig a great deal, too. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Stream the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. I'll start right here and ask, is this just you don't have anybody else, or are you a true believer in Daniel Jones? The transition tag, as evidently the Colts continue to work on long-term deals, according to Adam Schefter and ESPN, on both Jones and wide receiver, free agent to be Alec Pierce. All stories we're going to follow. You can just follow right along with us. Stream the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA member today. Open road, especially with the canyons that are opening up on the open road right now. Flat tires, bent rims, stuff like that, all problematic this time of year with the warmer temperatures as we approach spring. Make sure AAA is out there for you, working for you, has your back. Become a AAA member. Download the app to your smartphone today. Hit that button. Become a AAA member. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Greg Rakestraw on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, it's Joey Hart of Linton, the Linton Miners, right, the other side of the river in Greene County. Hey, here's an interesting story. His dad, Joey Hart, was a teammate of mine in the Bloomington City League back in the 1990s. His dad played collegiately, if you remember, I believe at Coastal Carolina is where he played. Joey's been dealing with an injury up at Ball State. Joey had an outstanding high school career. That was the 2023 2A state title. That's Fort Wayne Blackhawk 52-45 over Linton. 29-2, the Miners finished on that season. Pat Boyle and Bob Lovell with the call. Fact remains, it is the best value you're going to find anywhere in the state for your sports dollar. That is the high school championship, starting with the sectional play later on tonight throughout the state of Indiana. Of course, it is going to be clear the value of games and players you can see just like that. IHSAA.org to find out the location where you can soak up some of the Hoosier hysteria that starts later on tonight. Again, boys, sectional play in high school basketball for the games, the sites you would like to find. Log on right now, IHSAA.org.
The Ride with JMV.
Excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Daniel Jones gets the transition tag. So how many of you just say, yeah, go ahead, gloriously negotiate with other teams, and if you get lost to another team, so what? Anybody out there care that he's not back here next year? You prioritize Alec Pierce to make sure that he is, or should Alec Pierce be back here next year if Daniel Jones isn't back here? I would make this argument if either of the two aren't back here, then why is the coach and the general manager back here? Can we start there? I started that yesterday. Why are we even going through any of this? I thought it was a foregone conclusion that that's what you get if both coach and general manager are back. Yes, no? Discussion coming up on that on the other side. Actually, we'll continue the discussion right here, but with you on the other side at 239-1070, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. I mentioned the Tucker Wetmore tickets for Everwise coming up a little bit later on. Sting, we've got to give away. Sting is going to be an outstanding event coming up and they're having some great shows at the Murrah. I saw not only that, but you got David Byrne coming up in May, Devo, coming up in June. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Meantime, Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Got a lot going on. High school basketball sectional play starts later on tonight. He's going to be in Noblesville. And following these stories of transition tags and free agents and who do you want, are you going to get both, regarding Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. He's also the host of the postgame show for the Colts. Greg Rakestraw joins us. So should this be easier than it is, or is this making a lot of sense, the path in which they're going right now, the Colts, regarding these two particular players?
I think it should be easier than it is, but at the same time, I think this is Daniel Jones driving a hard bargain. I understand betting on yourself, knowing that if it doesn't go right, this is the last chance you have to get paid like this in the National Football League. And he's betting on himself making a full recovery. And so probably his asking price a little bit higher than the Colts want to pay, which is how we got ourselves into this situation. If the Colts didn't have to be in this spot with Alec Pierce in terms of placing a, franchise tag on him, they would simply franchise tag Daniel Jones. And so this is kind of the one they feel they've got a little more wiggle room or leeway on, is to place the transition tag on Daniel Jones.
If you're a betting man right now, would you bet that both are back, one of the others back coming up next year? Who do you think is going to be in this Colts uniform next year?
I think it's both are back. And again, the Colts may have to pay a little bit more to the quarterback than maybe they had planned on or had hoped to. I'm not sure this is all that different from kind of where the Pacers were with Miles Turner in terms of the summer. Where they thought they could get him at price A, and they ended up not being able to. The difference is, I'm not sure if there is a team that is willing to meet that transition tag price, so to speak, to bring in Daniel Jones, knowing he's coming off of said Achilles injury. I think the Colts are probably the team that's willing to pay him the most money, which is why at the end of the day, I think he's back here. And going down this path to bring him back here, I think also signifies the importance of keeping Alec Pierce here as well.
So Greg Rakestraw with us. I just think that if you don't have both back, and everybody's questioning that, well, it's all right. You bring Pierce back, not Jones, or they're not going to be very good anyway. Who really cares? But my argument has been, if you don't bring both quarterback and wide receiver back, why is head coach and general manager back? Why are you not just starting all over again, even if you did make the deal that you made back at the trade deadline? This will make no sense to me if it happens to go that particular direction, which is not likely, but it would certainly make no sense.
Correct. The reason that Shane Steichen is back and Chris Ballard is the same is that you felt that was the quickest way to win. And so because of that, again, it's why I think you see this particular tag on Daniel Jones, knowing you would rather have him hit the open market than Alec Pierce hit the open market. Again, I think it's why the Colts have kind of been forced into playing their hand in this matter.
So Greg Rakestraw, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll continue to follow that story, certainly coming up here. As the conversations with the two and the reps continue with the Colts coming up here. You're on the road tonight, right? Noblesville, correct?
I am not on the road yet, but I'm about to be,
Gotcha.
And that will be where I'll be hanging out for 3 of the next 5 nights. So sectional time in Indiana. We had our requisite snow last night, thankfully, or yesterday morning, got it out of the way. And now it's time for what is always a fun get-together, whether it's at Carmel or Noblesville.
Yeah, I'm assuming that it's per usual loaded where you're going to start things out later on tonight, correct, in the brackets?
Correct. Probably a bit more of a gap from one to everybody else than it has been, just because Fishers is that good. And I would say that Westfield and Noblesville, compared to where they've been the last couple of years, are a bit down. Obviously, Justin Curry's injury is a part of that. Losing him for the season about a month ago, the young man that's probably going to be an Indiana All-Star, but a non-playing version, and then going to Valparaiso next year, suffered a knee injury against Garin Catholic. Still have Barron Walker that's going to Butler. But from a ranking standpoint, it's Fishers 1, Carmel 10, HSE 12, if you go by the USA Today poll. So, yes, if you look at the Sagarin ratings, these are 6 of the top 22 teams in the state, and there's no other sectional that can match that. But there is a bigger gap from one to the next few teams than it has been in years gone by. John, that being said, Westfield took Fishers to overtime, and they beat Carmel by 3. So it's not like for as good as Fishers is and has been for the last 3 years that they're unbeatable in terms of other competition in this group.
Hey, you got that starting later on tonight throughout the state of Indiana, then obviously coming up this weekend, the semifinals and the final. That comes off the girls' state finals. And I gave a lot of love yesterday for obvious reasons to Ron Colley, the run that they made, and then the injury situation with Elliot Leffler that certainly did kind of compromise them, certainly down the stretch of the game in 3A. But what about CG? The 4A champions, unbeaten on the season. To me, it's a foregone conclusion that Grayson Gilliard is the Miss Basketball of the state of Indiana. Would you buy that too?
I think given the fact in the way that she played it down the stretch of that game, I would say yes. I think she's locked that up. This is a year where there has been a variety of candidates. Obviously, Lola Lampley is the highest ranked recruit from this state and is going to LSU and is going to be playing in the McDonald's All-American game. But at the same time, in the head-to-head, Center Grove won in a low-scoring game. And the thing that I think speaks the best of both CG and of Grayson is the fact that they were down in the regional, in the semi-state, and the state finals in the fourth quarter and found a way to win all 3 of those games. So, yes, I would hand her the Miss Basketball trophy at this point.
Yeah, unbeaten. It's weird. They won a variety of ways. Get down, you're up, come from behind, lose a lead, whatever. In a variety of ways, they found a way to cash it in.
And it's not like they played any sort of soft schedule, especially when you come from central Indiana and have to work your way through the tournament. So their postseason wins were pretty impressive every step of the way. So kudos to them. And by the way, John, first unbeaten team to win a girls basketball state championship in any classification in 13 years. Can you guess the school that last went unbeaten to win a state championship?
With both boys and girls?
No, just girls.
Just girls.
Yeah.
Bloomfield.
No, but you have done a good job of picking a place that you know well. Think the other direction from where you grew up, John.
I don't know. What is it?
The place where your mother taught, John.
Bedford. Oh, Bedford North Lawrence did that, huh?
And there you go.
So is that going back? Is that multi-class or is that single?
That is multi-class. That
Okay.
is 2013. It's your first time in 13 years.
All right. So that's well beyond Amy Walker and Carrie Mount and those particular groups of the late, great Pete Pritchard back in the day, I guess.
Somewhere between the 1990s and the group from 2 or 3 years ago that has, Chloe Spreen, Carson Norman, and Madison Bailey, who's tearing it up at Marion University these days.
No doubt about that. Greg Rakestraw is with us. So I'm going to go to Butler tomorrow night. Going to shoot a little bit up before basketball-wise, inside Hinkle, before we do the show coming up tomorrow at 3. You get Creighton and Butler. It's going to be a busy night. You got IU at home versus Minnesota. Looks like IU, I haven't checked the Lenardi. As of yesterday, they were the last team of the last 4 in. Hell, I don't know what that ends up meaning. But you can't lose to Minnesota at home. And then you've got a must-win for the Boilermakers on the road in Evanston because they simply put on out living up to expectations. What do you make of tomorrow night's schedule in college basketball, especially with local teams?
I make of how awful is the bubble that IU has played the way in which they have, and they are still in consideration for the NCAA tournament. And we're sitting here having a conversation, and a lot of talking heads are trying to shoot down Miami of Ohio at 29-0. And I'll acknowledge schedule has not been great. A lot of factors involved in that. Do teams want to play them? No. Could they have probably went out and still scheduled a better level of competition than what they did? Yes. But I would much rather see that team with 1 loss on the season than any major conference team that comes in with 13 or 14 losses on the year. No, thank you. Give me the mid-major team every time. I say that knowing that that's an exercise in futility because that's the way the system is set up, is to widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and it gets worse every year. But that's my overwhelming thought on that. On Purdue, it's almost like a parent I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. I just don't think they're as good as we thought they were. We ranked them as highly as we did to start the year because they had the most coming back. And others, in kind of reloading, rebuilding, seemingly have built a better mousetrap. So it strikes me. I think you had Chris Kramer on the show a couple of days ago, correct?
Yes.
And Chris had a really good tweet a few days ago about saying, hey, the Big Ten title isn't going to happen, but let's still appreciate this group for how special they have been for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I'm trying to balance and acknowledge the common sense of that statement with the fact they're simply not playing well. So they're going to make the tournament. They still have a chance to turn, kind of flip the switch back in the tournament. But the good feeling, the good vibe I had about this team certainly is a lot less than it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It's Greg Rakestraw with us. I started with if you were a betting man question, and I'll end with it as well. If you were a betting man, would something with Alec Pierce long-term be done before this show is finished today?
Before the show is finished, I don't know. Again, I think it's why you could follow the Pittman path of 2 years ago. Put a franchise tag on to make sure you do a long-term deal. But again, I think this goes back to trading away of Adonai Mitchell. I think the plan when the year started was, as in training camp, hey, Alex made a lot of improvement, but we're probably not going to keep him here. You drafted A.D. Mitchell. He's the guy that replaces him. When they moved Mitchell in the middle of the season, I think that was not just, hey, we've been a little disappointed in Mitchell. It is, Pierce is so good, we cannot let him go. And so I still think at the end of the day, he's going to be a Colt next year, and I don't think he's playing on the franchise tag. I think that would be a temporary usage of that only.
It's Greg Rakestraw. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Say hello to him up in Noblesville to start sectional play for the fellas later on tonight. Man, Greg, I appreciate you very much, brother.
See you, buddy.
Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. What was the rallies break-in right there with, like I'm talking to somebody's speaker in the drive-thru?
I think that was something up with his phone.
Oh, I thought we were shaking loose all that stuff around here. Hopefully we were. It looks like guys around here getting stuff in gear. Cluster Truck and Evans in studio is going to join me coming up on the other side. Here again is the latest. We'll follow Alec Pierce because just maybe you got some people chirping a bit about something maybe in the not-so-distant future getting it done. We'll follow that as we move forward. $37.833 million, the transition tag for Daniel Jones. That is presently where we are. And many around here mentioned there is hope to get something done with Pierce. And maybe that is an indicator that something is in the process of getting done. We'll follow that as we should because that's what we do here in the afternoon. Rapheal Davis, top of the hour, Big Ten Network. He can try to figure out what the hell is going on with his former team, the Boilermakers. They're in Evanston tomorrow night. IU at home versus Minnesota tomorrow night. I'm going to be at Hinkle, Creighton, and the Dogs coming up tomorrow. That is a 5:30. Actually, pregame show time. Tip time's at 6 tomorrow night, right? 5:30 pregame show with Mark and Nick coming up tomorrow as well. Quick break. We'll come back. Daniel Jones, transition tag. Alec Pierce. We're waiting on information there. Hang with us. Get on the phones if you want at 239-1070. 317-239-1070. That is the text line, which is firing away as well on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Hi, I'm John for the District Tap. The District Tap, you've got two locations. Clearwater Crossing, North Side, downtown. You've got that a block away from Gamers Fieldhouse. Great food. We're talking about incredible food. Great happy hour specials and just an overall dining experience you might be looking for. The versatility there, too, for you and a date, you and your significant other, you and the family, you and friends, the fellas after work, whatever your favorite games on the big screens. You're not going to miss a second at the District Tap. Two locations, Clearwater Crossing and in downtown Indy. To find out more about the live music, event space, and then some, thedistricttap.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Rapheal Davis, top of the hour. Gary Newman is going to be at the Vogue coming up later on this month. Gary Newman, who has a one-hit wonder from 1980. This song that's very appropriate, especially during the month of May. Gary Newman, that'd be all right. Gary Newman, Thomas Dolby, I think, is going to be at the Vogue. I'd mentioned that you got David Byrne of Talking Heads early May at the Mira Old National Center. Devo, the beginning of June at the Mira Old National Center. That's nice stuff around here, especially for somebody that loves the 1980s like we love the 1980s. Transition tag for Daniel Jones. What does that mean? We'll continue talking that up. And Alec Pierce, we'll see if something long-term is done by the time that we end this show a little bit later on today. But conversation on Daniel Jones, the transition tag, and your thoughts on the Colts moving forward with presumably at some point, and I'm still going to presume that, both of these guys. Or would you be okay with the transition tag? The Colts are going to have to match any other offers that may come in at this point in time for Daniel Jones. Would you be cool if he found another deal out there and the Colts couldn't match it? Or is this something that has to happen? Do you have to have him? Do you have to have Pierce moving forward? Back to that in a second from Cluster Truck. Evan Sherrill is in studio with us. Man, thanks for bringing the bag today as usual.
Absolutely.
How are things going
happy
at
to.
Cluster Truck? The month of March is a big deal at Cluster Truck.
Things are good. This March actually is a huge deal. Last Friday, we just opened our very first franchisee-owned kitchen up in Carmel. So grand opening was last Friday.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That is something you can see from 31 that I saw right over there.
Exactly. So they're doing well.
Is that in that same place? Is that where the God Be Furniture location is right there? Or is that a different one right there in the same?
It's by an Ollie's, like the.
Oh, yeah, the Ollie's.
There's a beer brewery
You
up
get
there.
great deals at Ollie's, by the way. Yeah, so go ahead. That
Yeah.
just opened up, huh?
Just opened up on Friday. So they had the same menu, delivering all over Carmel and Westfield, and it's always free delivery, of course. So you can find their menu at clustertruckcarmel.clustertruck.com.
That's nice. Anything
Yeah.
new to the menu for the month of March here?
We will have the Dunk Fest special coming up. That starts on Selection Sunday, March 15th. We'll drop that. So that is 2 pounds of chicken strips and dips to pair with that. Cheesy bread, churros, and chips and white queso, all dunkable items.
Dunkable items.
Oh, yeah, the Dunk Fest
There's
special.
nothing. Hey, by the way, too, I mentioned this. The hummus is outstanding.
I packed 2 for you today.
Ah,
Made sure to
boy,
pack 2
right
for you
there. A
today.
little hoop later on tonight, hummus after that. So it is all good. All right, so the Dunk Fest, the specials of the month of March, and the deals you can get by mentioning you guys as well. If you heard you on the show here, tell people about it.
Correct. Yeah, you can get $5 off your order at clustertruck.com or download the app and get $5 off your order with code BIGFAN at checkout.
Big fan.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep.
You doing okay?
Doing well. Yeah, doing well.
Love to have you guys back in here. I missed you
Yeah.
last week. I was
Yeah.
actually, where was I?
I think the combine.
Oh, yeah, I was at the Combine
Yeah.
last Tuesday. Yeah, I was trying to think of that. That's why it was so forgettable for me.
I had to text James on Thursday. I heard you talking about the salmon still in the fridge. I was like, I will send new salmon.
No, I did it. I went ahead and ate it, though. Yeah, I did.
It was good?
It
It
was
was
all
still good?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was all
cool.
good, man. We warmed that up, and hell, we went
Very
with it right
good,
there.
very
But
good.
hey, thank you very much. And again, big fan. Get you $5 off, $25 or more in your order. Clustertruck.com. And you've got the Dunk Fest stuff that's going on right now, too.
Correct. Dunk Fest special coming up for every single day that there's college basketball on during the tournament, men's and women's. We'll have the Dunk Fest special. It's $39.99, and you can get $5 off with code BIGFAN.
That is something. Well done, Evan. Thanks as always, man.
Yep, thank you.
Evan Sherrill, Cluster Truck, clustertruck.com. Big fans going to save you money. Rapheal Davis, former Boilermaker on the other side of Big Ten Network. What's going on with Purdue? We'll get into that for the rest of the Big Ten, and we'll continue to follow the stories. The transition tag going to Daniel Jones, and the free agency on the horizon for Alec Pierce, or long-term deal locked in with the Colts, maybe before the end of the day. You've got some people suggesting maybe one or the other. We'll get into that conversation with you coming up in hour number 2 as well at 239-1070. 317-239-1070. That is on the text line as well. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Hey, John, for Andy Moore, Buick GMC, 131st State Road 37. That is in Fishers. You got my friend Eric Wilson. I saw Eric on Friday. In fact, I was asking Eric about some of the deals that they have going on right now. Those deals in terms are incentives to buy. And as we mosey on into spring, you have an opportunity to find incentives to buy for the vehicle of your choice out there. It is a unique situation in terms of being the best car buying experience, simply put, out there anywhere. That's my friend Eric Wilson and Andy Moore, Buick GMC. You're going to find the inventory, those incentives to buy, and the service after the sale that is absolutely unmatched. Check it out today. Tell them I sent you. 131st State Road 37 in Fishers.
The Ride with JMV.
I love JMV. He looks like Rascal Flatts guy.
Got a cool soul patch.
He does, and a buttery smooth voice.
Oh, yeah.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Nice. So Daniel Jones transition tag. Alec Pierce, evidently, according to many, still both being worked on long-term deals. Mike Garofalo has written this. The word at the scouting combine last week was Daniel Jones wasn't going to do a deal before the Colts made their tag decision. They'll keep working on a long-term deal with other teams, though they seem more intent on adding a veteran to a one-year deal free to offer soon. That is from Garofalo regarding the transition tag of Daniel Jones. And Jordan Schultz says, according to sources, while the Daniel Jones tag would allow Alec Pierce to become a free agent, it's my understanding both sides have been in active negotiations, that there's a chance Pierce could agree in terms on a long-term deal before becoming a free agent next week. And I had mentioned that there's some conversation about that being expedited to the point to where you may get news quicker than what you might think. We'll continue to follow that story. Transition tag over $37 million, which is $6 million less than the franchise tag at the quarterback position for Daniel Jones. And Alec Pierce set to become a free agent. We shall see. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, speaking of transition, we'll get to college basketball because there's a lot going on, a busy schedule coming up tomorrow night. I'm going to be at Hinkle before Creighton and Butler doing this show. You've got IU, Minnesota down in Bloomington, Purdue on the road at Northwestern against the Wildcats coming up in Evanston tomorrow evening. And the former Boilermaker from the Big Ten Network, Rapheal Davis, joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I'm going to start right there. You guys do stuff in suburban Chicago from the Big Ten Network. The Boilermakers are in Evanston. How do you foresee this group getting back on a track to live up to those lofty expectations that have kind of been lost in the shuffle here recently for this group?
That's the thing. I don't think they have to live up to anybody's expectations. I think they have to live up to their own expectations. So I think they have to get back to playing hard. They have to get back to defending at a high level. They got to get back to keeping the ball in front, keeping the ball out of the lane. I think it's simple when you look at Purdue. The offense is great. They got shooters all over the floor. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. Brandon Smith is one of the best point guards to ever play college basketball. Trey Kaufman-Renn is a load down low, but it's been defensively the last 3 seasons. And a lot of people put a lot on Daniel Jacobson and Oscar Clough for coming in and being rim protectors, but there's no need for a rim protector if you can't keep the ball in front of you. So I think Purdue, I think they'll be fine at Northwestern. You look at how Northwestern's structured, that's not what gives Purdue problems. But I think it's just the defensive end, just playing harder and being tougher on that end of the floor.
So you start right there defensively. Give me some individual thoughts on, you talk about the ball out front, not getting to the lane, not creating for others as well. Are these, in your terms of defense, are they individually and then team-wise, Rapheal, are they fixable issues you think here down the stretch?
Playing hard and caring is fixable. I mean, you got seniors that's played in a lot of games and that want to get to a Final Four and win a national championship. So the effort and the care part, I mean, it's just, you got to have a 1-2 and have a get up about you and go out there and play hard and go out there and fight. And when it doesn't go your way, just keep fighting. So I think they got the right guys in the locker room for that aspect of it. But defensively, I mean, athletically, some of those guys just are who they are. And it's not 1 or 2 guys, it's the entire team. And it's just lapses at times, too, that you wouldn't expect from a senior group. Because I wasn't a great defender by no means. I wasn't a great athletic guy or anything like that. But by the time I got to be a junior, senior, I started to understand schemes. And you start to understand how to close out and who to close out to. And you start to understand angles and whatnot. And you would expect this team to be further along than what they are. So I would say they are fixable. I think a lot of film work has to come through it, maybe go back to the basics. But as far as individual defenders, C.J. Cox, Jakari Harris, that's probably all you have on that team.
So that alone, when you bring up like the effort and the want to, that would seem to be the most problematic. Why do you think we have seen that, or you have seen that with this group, that you would think by now you've been through everything? This is supposed to be your crowning achievement type of moment to get things done. Why are they going through this presently?
I can't say why they're going through it, but I think my take on it, and I'm not in the locker room, I'm not around the guys every day, but every Matt Painter team that I've seen has always had that connector piece, has always had that leader. And I put out a tweet a couple weeks ago, and it offended some people and it rubbed some people the wrong way. And I said the leadership is lacking in. Everyone thought I was talking about Braden, and I wasn't, because your leader doesn't always have to be your best player. Braden's the best player for sure, but it's not in his nature to kind of be that rah-rah in his teammates' face, kind of that guy. And you look at Purdue's, the history of it, you go back to the Baby Boilers when it was Juwan Johnson, Robbie Hummel, and Etwan Moore. Lewis Jackson was that emotional leader. Chris Kramer was that emotional leader. They weren't the best players on that team, but they were those guys that had the respect of those guys that were the best players, but also showed those younger guys how to go. And then you fast forward, you look at Dakota Mathias with that group. You look at Grady Eifert is a great example. Grady Eifert was not the best player on that Elite Eight team, but he was a connector. He connected Ryan Klein and Carson Edwards. He connected those young guys. You look at Nojel Eastern, Matt Harms. He connected that group. And you go more recently, the Final Four group, Lance Jones comes in. He connects that group. So when I look at the team, I don't necessarily see the connector on the floor. And I think that's something that's got to emerge, and I think it can emerge, because when things don't go their way, they kind of go apart instead of coming together.
Are you disappointed because somebody hasn't emerged in that capacity with this group?
No, I want to say I'm disappointed. I think you just go through it, and this team is good enough, because to me it's not that big of a deal that they lost a couple games or whatnot. They're not going to win the Big Ten, because I know you just click at the right time, you get the right matchups, you get the right seeding, you go win 4 games in a row, and then what happens in the Final Four. So I still think this team is good enough to beat a lot of teams on neutral floors. So I wouldn't say I'm disappointed at all. I think you look at the way these guys have carried the mantle for their 4 years. If you look at Brady Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, you think of Trey Coffer in his 5 years. I couldn't be nothing but proud of those dudes and happy that those are the guys that's kind of carrying the torch of Purdue. I'm not disappointed at all. I just hope they can end their career on a good note and not go out this way. I hope they can go get themselves some wins in the tournament.
It is Rapheal Davis, the former Boilermaker of the Big Ten Network. He's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It seems to me you did mention, too, that they have some situations with their guys, just some things they're not able to overcome, and it is coming down to matchups, and I think you're right about that. So is that how you view this thing moving forward? Not so much getting back on track, as we talked about, to close the regular season, Big Ten Conference Tournament, NCAA Tournament, but is it ultimately going to come down, maybe more than any other team out there, especially a team at that level, the matchups you end up getting in a one-and-done situation?
Yeah, you look at some of the teams that Purdue has lost to this season, it's been with teams that's had multiple guards. And I've said that for a couple of years now. When Purdue is up against an Ohio, that's why Ohio State has been effective against Purdue the last few seasons, in my opinion, because they have multiple guards that can go score the ball and that can go create. When you have multiple guards against Purdue, they tend to struggle. Like you think of Bruce Thornton and John Mobley Jr., C.J. Cox can't guard them both. You know what I mean? So it's a thing where those, you look at even UCLA, Donovan Dent, Trent Perry, those teams tend to hurt Purdue at times. I mean, Keith Wagner was 2 guards just by himself. So I think just with the right matchups, they can do some damage. But I just think the way they scheme in the guards, it's you got to keep the ball in front. You got to keep the ball out of lane, because if you don't keep the ball out of front in front of you, you're just putting your team in rotations. You're getting your big man in foul trouble, and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So I think it simply comes down to the defensive end of the floor.
Rapheal Davis with us. Rest of the Big Ten, and you could give me your thumbnail sketch on IU. I know that they may simply put maybe not that good, but they have gone through an incredibly rough stretch, no doubt about it, here recently. Their matchup with Minnesota, it's a senior night coming up tomorrow night. It's going to be very important for them moving forward. What do you make of Darren DeVries and the team that we have witnessed there, especially in the past handful of games in Bloomington?
I really like Coach DeVries. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's done an unbelievable job coming in IU and building the roster kind of without nothing and kind of just going at it. And I think you come into it, Nick Dorn not being healthy, maybe you don't get off to the start that you want to start the season because Nick Dorn's a player. Like Nick Dorn, if you have him as for a full healthy season, I think maybe the start is a little bit different. And I think and that's the lineup and the continuity. Once they got going, it made sense. I think they lost a couple, and in the Big Ten is unforgiving. Like one loss, it'll turn into two real quick. And I think that's kind of what happened to him as of late. But I look at Lamar Wilkerson as one of the better players in the conference. And I look at where he come from. You look at Lamar Wilkerson's senior class when he was in high school with 60 kids being a country boy. I just give him a tremendous amount of credit. And Tucker DeVries, he's kind of been up and down. I think maybe they were expecting a little bit more out of him. But I think in the first year, where they are right now and kind of where they could win tomorrow night, they maybe win another one. They get into the Big Ten tournament, who knows? And maybe they get themselves and go dancing.
You got the Boilermakers, Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska, Michigan. You know, those are the five teams we look at the top of the Big Ten right now in the regular season. I'm going to take Michigan out of the equation because they've won the regular season crown already. Outside of the Wolverines, who do you think of that particular group could end up being the most challenge here in the Big Ten tournament? And then once you end up hitting even further in the month of March into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I'm going Michigan State. I'm going Michigan State right there with Michigan. I think Michigan State has an unbelievable chance to go out and do some real damage in the month of March. I think you look at how they're constructed defensively, one of the better units in the country. All five of those guys, every time on the floor, can really guard the basketball. And then the development of a dude like Jordan Scott or Cam Ward throughout the season has been big time because that's been their thing. It's been at the guard position. And the other night against Indiana, I mean, if you tell me Michigan State's going to make 10, 12 threes every night out, I'm taking them to get all the way to a national championship because in the month of March, you need shot making. You need big-time defenses that can keep teams in the half court. You need toughness and just tenacity. And, I mean, Michigan State, they check all of those boxes. They rebound the basketball, and they dominate you on the offensive glass. So they win the toughness category. And then when they make some shots, it's big time because then they have some post guy. That's what a lot of teams don't have. A lot of teams don't have a post guy they can just dump the ball down to and get him a basket. And Jackson Kohler, when he's going, and Carson Cooper, they can both go get you one. And then you look at it, and Michigan State probably has the first or second best point guard in all of college basketball, Jeremy Pierce. He could be the player of the year in the Big Ten. So in March, you need a good point guard. You need shot making. You need bigs that are tough. And you need a solid defense. And I think Michigan State, they check all of those boxes. I think Tom Izzo gets himself back to the Final Four.
You know, the one thing that you mentioned, Rapheal Davis of the Big Ten Network joins us, is their defense is stout, no doubt about it. But even when the team scores on them, and this to me is incredibly demoralizing, and we've seen it a lot more with Sparty recently, is they inbound the ball and get up the floor with the ball quicker than you get back on defense, and they score off makes, which it's one thing because you're going up against their tough defense, but when you do score and then you immediately give it up on the other end, that to me is about as demoralizing of a play as you're going to find in basketball.
Oh, no, for sure. And that's just a huge testament to a dude like Jeremy Pierce. I mean, the way he just goes about his work. He doesn't care if you score or not. He's just playing ball. And they don't put their heads down. They don't get down on themselves, make or miss. They just go out there and play. And it's also a testament to having an older group. You look at it, two seniors in that starting lineup. Cohen Carr's a junior. Jeremy Pierce is a sophomore, but he's been there 3 years. So those dudes have been there through everything. So their ability to defend and control the glass, but even if you do make it, like you said, get out and push the basketball. I mean, it gives me nightmares. It takes me back. This team takes me back to that 2015 season when Brent Forbes, Denzel Valentine, Brandon Dawson, and Matt Costello and those boys, they clicked at the right time and they got to the Final Four, because this team is just as fast, because I think they have one of the better point guards that they've had since Cassius Winston, and maybe in a long, long time. I think Jeremy Fears is right in that group of Tom Izzo, great point guards.
You know what? And they played well this season, and I'm not down on Illinois, but I do wonder why they're not higher level consistent. They go through some funks, and I know they dealt with some injuries and such, but I do expect them, if they're healthy, I think that they're going to be a tough out against anybody, and especially if you can find both ends a level of consistency that oftentimes we haven't seen here recently of that team.
Yeah, I think Illinois, like Purdue, with the right matchups, they're a team I would not be surprised at all if Illinois got to a Final Four. I wouldn't be surprised if Illinois played for a national championship with the right matchups. Just like you said, though, they got to put it together on both ends. The thing is, with Illinois, unlike Michigan State, they can't have both. And when I say they can't have both, you look at Michigan State. Michigan State's best offensive lineup is also the best defensive lineup. You look at Illinois, their best offensive lineup is not their best defensive lineup. When they have the offensive lineup out there like they had at Purdue, when you had Keem Wagler at the top of the key running on offense, and you had the floor space with Benham Rickhouse or Jake Davis in the corners, Keem Wagler can go play ball. He has space. He had pick and pop bigs. But now when you put in Andre Stojakovic or you put in Kylan Boswell, it shrinks the floor a little bit. You can help off those guys. So the offense gets a little stagnant, but the defense is a little bit better. So it's for them, it's about the matchups. And you look at Illinois and you say, well, they're big. They have a lot of size, but those big aren't the toughest dudes on the glass. I mean, you look at the game against Michigan, the big twins, Zavamir and Tomislav. I think they combined for 9 points and 4 rebounds, and that's just not good enough. So I think it just depends on the matchups and the teams and who they play and how you let them play. If you let Illinois be comfortable and you let them run their stuff in the half court, they can hang 100 on you, and I think that's what gives them a chance to get all the way there.
All right, Nebraska, Wisconsin, for example, as possible outsiders. Let's just say once we hit the Big Ten Conference Tournament, what do you dislike about both of those teams? And obviously Nebraska's had the better season. Wisconsin may be the team with the head coach, and nothing against Fred Hoiberg at all, but, Greg Gard, normally is built for some of these situations, a one-and-done situation at times like that, when it's kind of them against a team of greater athleticism. But what do you think about both of those teams in Chicago coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say Greg Gard or Fred Hoiberg. I would just say how the teams are constructed. You look at Wisconsin, and nothing against Nebraska. I love Nebraska. I'm a huge Nebraska fan, but Wisconsin is more so in today's basketball built for a tournament. They're built for just going to hoop because they have 2 guards that can roll the ball out and just go get you 30. John Blackwell, Nick Boyd. You look at how they beat Michigan. Everyone talks about, they made 15 threes as a team and all that good stuff, but they had 2 guards that combined for 50 points. So when you have 2 guards that combine for 50 points, the same thing against Illinois, that's what wins you games in tournaments, because one of them have a bad game, the other one gets you 30, and they can get you through with their defense. But if they're both cooking at the same time, then you got a situation, and now that's how you beat Michigan State, you beat Illinois, you beat Michigan. You get what I'm saying? So I just think that gives Wisconsin a chance. Nick Boyd is a really, really good playmaker. I think he's going to play at a high level on a big stage. If they're bigs, like you think of Nolan Winter, Austin Rapp, Bill Lauskas, if they make shots, I wouldn't be surprised if Wisconsin won the Big Ten tournament. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But on the other side, you look at Nebraska, one of the best defenses in college basketball. The way they keep the ball out of the paint and force you into being a jump shot shooting team, I think that gives them a chance. I think Sam Hoiberg is the defensive player of the year. I think he can take guys out of games. I think it's just going to come down to Rick Mask, I believe. I think Nebraska, when they're healthy and when Rick Mask is going and he's productive, I think they're one of the best teams in the country. I think Braden Frager gives them a lot on the wing and off the bounce. So I think I wouldn't be surprised at all for them. But I think if Rick Mask can't go out and come to Chicago and give them 7 points and 4 rebounds, Rick Mask has got to give them 20 points, 8 rebounds. He's got to be that dude that we know him to be. And I think Nebraska have a really, really good shot at it. I think Fred Hoiberg should be coach of the year in the conference. I think he's done a marvelous job. He reminds me a little bit of Coach Painter. Coach Painter almost got fired when I played for him. And when I came into the Big Ten as a commentator, broadcaster, whatever, Coach Hoiberg was up against it. That team almost got him fired. And to see him go from that to this and just in a couple of years, it's been big time to watch.
Hey, I want to close out because, obviously you played for him and you know him. Do you think that Matt's frustrated with this group at all right now, or is he just kind of understanding this is ultimately part of it when you had teams? Even if you have the same dudes, sometimes you have different situations with those particular dudes. Is he understanding of that?
Nah, Coach is not understanding of that. Coach is frustrated. I can tell in his press conferences. I don't have to talk to him to know. I think you got dudes that's played in a lot of games because you're not asking dudes to change themselves athletically. You're not asking dudes to do anything crazy. You watch that Ohio State game, and I've watched it 2 or 3 times now. Ohio State didn't do anything crazy. Ohio State was running the same thing at times over and over. And one possession, Purdue guarded perfectly. A next possession or 2 possessions later, they mess up. And to me, you have this level of a team that with guys that's played national championships, guys that's lost to 16 seeds, guys that's won multiple Big Ten championships. It's little things that you should not mess up on. So I think that's frustrating. And then when things don't go your way, you have to keep playing basketball. I think those 2 things are frustrating. I think Coach, win or lose, Coach is the same. Like the ball go in, the ball don't, he gets it. But the things that you can control, he can't deal with stuff like that. So I think this team this week is going to have a real coming to Jesus moment. I think in the film room, I think on the floor, I think you may see some things in the Northwestern game. And this is just all off the top of my head, but I think Coach is frustrated. I think he expects more out of this bunch, and I think he should have. And I think they're going to deliver for him at the end of the day. I got a lot of hope for this group. I don't see this as a team that's going to go out this way.
It is Rapheal Davis of the Big Ten Network, the former Boilermaker. He is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline as we get into the end of the regular season. This time of year is fantastic, man. We'll stay in touch here, find out what goes on up in Chicago, and get you back on the show here soon. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. You have a good one.
So Rapheal Davis of the Big Ten Network on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. A lot of answers right there. Or at least his thoughts on the present-day Boilermakers and the rest of the Big Ten. So transition tag for Daniel Jones. Jeremy Fowler, quote, he's not afraid of it. Team and player will continue working on a long-term deal, but the tag is something Jones would embrace, and I guess would be embracing it right now. Thoughts by many would be that a deal is in place for Alec Pierce, tentatively speaking, at least verbally in this case. Common ground, I guess, is how I should put it. And anything that appears otherwise would seem like a mess. And even though we have seen a mess to somewhat of a mess over a number of years now, you choose not. I understand why. That is what I'm getting. Now, we'll see what happens with Alec Pierce, too. There's a lot of conversation, and we already had this regarding Michael Pittman Jr. And if he is going to be a cap casualty ultimately, $24 million, I believe, in cap space is what would be available if something is done for Michael Pittman Jr. in terms of what ultimately could be for Alec Pierce. Just some of the stories with the news that the transition tag is that of Daniel Jones. We'll continue moving forward with that. More to come, by the way, too. 239-1070. We'll also get to some of your text line messages for us, too. 317-239-1070. I've got Tucker Wetmore tickets, Everwise coming up. That's a country music artist. And I've got Sting at the Old National Center tickets coming up a little bit later on. One's later on this summer. Wetmore is this summer at Everwise. Sting is coming up in the fall at the Old National Center at the Mirage. 2 great shows, your opportunity to win coming up. Don't go anywhere. More on the latest regarding the Colts and some of those thoughts out there and some different quotes. And living in a world where many, because you have been so disgruntled about the path of this team, a believer in everything that is going to be bad. Yeah, we'll even cover that coming up on the other side. The stream, the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Don't go away. No, this is a big deal here. Late winter, early spring road readiness is a priority for your car, truck, or van. And let's do this thing upright. Let's do it upright with the 13 Central Indiana Express Pro Tire and Auto locations. You are not going to find anybody better to make sure you do maintain that late season road readiness that you need right now. And especially, I mentioned a little bit earlier, too, the roads are beyond rough right now. And you might end up with a situation with your tires, and it's been a long winter, so your brakes probably need a good look-see. My friend Mike is up in Carmel, and great folks throughout Central Indiana that can make sure you maintain that road readiness, from tires to brakes to brake pads, anything mechanically speaking. And as always, those incredibly important for the long life of your vehicle, the fluid exchanges you can find at great deals and great prices at your Central Indiana Express Pro Tire and Auto. The absolute best to deal with your car, truck, or van. And to find the location nearest you and some of those incredible deals, check them out online right now. That's expresspro.com.
The Ride with JMV.
We're not going to fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So Tucker Wetmore tickets, Everwise Amphitheater, which is an awesome place to go downtown. You guys say that you like Tucker Wetmore a great deal. You want to do this on the text line or phones? Text line from James. You guys want to do number 30? Tell me who wants to go see Tucker Wetmore. Number 30 at 317-239-1070 on the text line. James will select you, and you are going to go for a fantastic show with Tucker Wetmore later on this summer. Tickets available, Everwise Amphitheater downtown. Again, what a fantastic place that is. So fire it up and fire it up right now. Latest, by the way, too, as we've been staying on top of this all day, Daniel Jones gets the transition tag, and you've got commentary everywhere, considering some are thinking, all right, so if you do that, that means you've got something at least on the surface communication with Alec Pierce, and you know that you're going to get him back, which may end up exposing, and we thought that would be the case anyway, Michael Pittman Jr., as a possible cap casualty. But that is where we are right now. And I get a lot of people suggesting, you know what, if you keep Jones and there is nothing done and Pierce walks, this is an absolute joke and a disaster. Why would you mess? If you don't get them both back, why would you mess with any of them? If people can make the argument, why would you mess with any of this anyway? And why are you not moving forward and trying to rebuild because you've been down this path? But because you have a general manager and a head coach back, they want to win right now. And their best path to winning is to have both these guys as a part of the team. You made a trade deadline deal last year to bring in Sauce Gardner, because you thought you were right there to participate. You would have to change your mind. You'd have to change your mind on a lot of things. And honestly, none of it, if it does make sense to you or did make sense to you, would make no sense if you don't have all this together. The Cardinals have informed two-time Pro Bowl quarterback Kyler Murray that they plan on releasing him. That was news a little bit earlier today. But again, the latest regarding Daniel Jones is the transition tag for him. And now Alec Pierce is set to become a free agent, and you have those that, believing the Colts know what they're doing, that the wheels have been put in motion, and others saying, well, this is just setting up to be a disaster. And we'll see what the number is for Alec Pierce. I think 25 to 30 mil open market-wise is what some are suggesting nationally for him. But that is the latest right there. And you have a variety of national reporters all in on the transition tag again of Daniel Jones, which, by the way, Falcons utilized that on Jeff George going back to 1996. Now, that was 1 year, $3.6 million after a long holdout. The transition tag for Daniel Jones, 37.8, according to reports. And again, that is the first time they've utilized that since Jeff George going back to the Falcons in 1996.
According to NFL researcher on X, that's actually the second time ever someone's ever used a transition tag on the quarterback.
So there's a path in which the Colts are taking that makes sense to have these two guys coming back, or they have just screwed this up. Where are we with this? Or just have screwed this up royally? Cannot imagine that. Can you? Not to this level. Now, you've known this was going to happen for a long time. And again, I look at it more than this. It's not even so much with a belief or non-belief in Jones. It's a belief in why, if you're not bringing these two dudes back because you believe once you have a healthy quarterback, you can do the things that you did a year ago. Why is anybody coming back? Why is any of this happening? I think you push all the way back to that. I just can't comprehend that they're messing this up in that capacity. All right, text lines open at 317-239-1070. JMV, I have more belief in Daniel Jones than any other quarterback option. However, I have very little belief that he can stay healthy, especially behind a Colts offensive line and the way that he is utilized offensively. $40 million a year? Not with my money. Thank you, Jim. $38 million to Daniel Jones is a snapshot of how big of a mess this franchise is, JMV. The guy has had one healthy season out of 7 and is coming off one of the worst injuries a player can sustain these days, especially for someone who uses their legs to scramble around a bit. What incentive does Alec Pierce have to come back? Colts have a quarterback who can't stay healthy, or he can go pick his destination quarterback pairing for the same or more money. The Sauce Gardner trade is going to go down as one of the worst trades in the history of the franchise. Brian in Lafayette. JMV, I believe in him with Steichen, but I do think the current injury could have made him cheaper than the transition price tag. I said yesterday, and I feel this to be true, given the circumstances of both this team, the franchise, and Daniel Jones, and the circumstances surrounding it, so his representation must have really proved that there could be something else out there. I think you just got to debate what else would there be. So you roll the dice, believing that you're going to ultimately get both these guys back. And I know what you mean. A lot of you guys are saying, hey, this is destined to fail. And you have had evidence of that in the past. I get what you're saying on that. But you also keep in mind where we are. And the cut of the dry of it is we are in a spot with this team that you have a general manager and a head coach that has 1 year to do something in which they haven't done. And, winning a division, going to the postseason, they have 1 year to get something done in a capacity as such. And my point has been all along, if you don't bring these guys back, then you should be kickstarting this thing all over, as you probably should have done 2 years ago. But we're still in the midst of the argument regarding Anthony Richardson and whether or not he was ever going to be good, which to some maintains today. I get what you're saying about this organization being an absolute mess. I can't imagine it's going to be this messy. And I'm not talking in terms of you or I from the outside looking in, but this messy in terms of themselves. If you don't maintain with this group, you are hosed. They, in this case, they that need it to maintain are screwed. So I think you can screw a lot of things up. That I just don't think you can. You have to be exceptional at screwing stuff up to screw that up. And even if it's expensive, you just know what you know. You roll the dice in that capacity, knowing the boat that you're in has long time had a leak. I just don't think there's any way that you do it. JMV, couldn't a team give an unrealistic number for Jones to make the Colts match it like the Pacers did? Yes, certainly. As of right now, they can. Yeah, the Colts would have to match. Or, yeah, there's no doubt. And I think that was the reference we had talked about with Greg going back to hour number one, as he did mention Miles Turner. JMV, AJ here. Why would Pierce want to play here? He can go so many other. Yeah, listen, I completely understand what you're saying. But this is how you go about it? Well, why would you go about it this way? It seems to me the path that you've taken is trying to make sure that you maintain. I guess that's my belief again. And how much I believe this team doesn't want to lose, or this team, this organization, coach and general manager, they talked all at the combine, whether it was with me, with Shane Steichen, or Chris Ballard with the morning show, about how both of these guys, they're building around them. And this is not one of those lip service things. It has to be, because you don't have any other choices. And your other choice, if you're going to go that direction, should have been made just to go ahead, stop, and restart all over again. And that time clearly right now is come and gone. All right, back to you guys coming up on the other side at 239-1070. JMV, it's a lame move. Who cares if they aren't any other options? Burrow and Jackson aren't staying out of the postseason. We aren't a top 10 AFC team. Dune has messed up legs. Brian Thomas suggests that, and while I think you're absolutely right, that's not how they're viewing that. They're viewing this as what you saw in the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season before he was injured, and what they believe they can do with a healthy quarterback. That's not how they choose to believe it. But I certainly get it if you're suggesting that everybody else around them is still going to be good and this team is simply put not going to be any better. And Brian, I'll be honest with you, I don't think you have to just talk about in terms of Baltimore or Cincinnati or the other teams outside of your own division. How about the teams within your own division? How about Jacksonville? How about Houston? Maybe not Tennessee just yet, but you have a lot at a higher level to play just to overcome those that have now gotten better with your own division. All right, quick break. We shall return. It seems like a lot of you just wish they have decided to go ahead and pull the plug and move a different direction to start to rebuild this thing. But again, the choice was made when you brought this back. So I don't know why you would presume that. Quick break. You and I on the other side. 317-239-1070 is the text line. It's a busy day. The transition tag applied to Daniel Jones, Colts quarterback, and we'll find out exactly more regarding Alec Pierce, the soon-to-be free agent, about what's going on there. Maybe news today, maybe not. We'll continue to follow that and more. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, John here for the Low T Center. John, talking up exactly New Year's resolutions. That's not really what I'm about, but maybe you were. Maybe it was a bit derailed because of the snowstorm. Now the weather's going to get better, and you're realizing some things that you really have not started down the path in doing just yet. Are you feeling exhausted? Maybe lost your sex drive? Book a free testosterone test at Low T Center. No risk, no commitments, just answers. So, you want to start testosterone therapy? Don't settle for one-size-fits-all doses from your doctor or pay hundreds out of pocket. At a TRT franchise at the Low T Center, you get insurance-covered TRT customized to your body for maximum effectiveness and safety. Low T Center has served over 500,000 patients since 2009, continuing to lead the industry in TRT. This month, enjoy a free men's T-test and discounted peptides while supplies last. Head to lowtcenter.com and sign up for free today. That's lowtcenter.com. One more time, lowtcenter.com today.
The Ride with JMV.
I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
The transition tag is 37.833 mil. Daniel Jones has that. And if you're thinking, are the Colts doing this with Daniel Jones because they believe, because in the transition tag, other teams are going to be allowed to swoop in and put some money down, and then the Colts would have to match that. So are they sure that nobody's going to do that? And this is just a precursor to making sure both these guys have long-term deals. Is this to push the time a little bit further here? Now, I would suggest that that's what a savvy team might do. Jeff Swartz writes this: how do you plan for the most important position in the sport using a transition tag? Do you need a replacement starter ready if Jones is signed by another team? Assuming the thinking here is that no one will offer him a deal, so this is cheaper than the franchise tag, and that's been our assumption all along. Just seems like the Colts have no clue what they're doing at quarterback for years now. That has also been our thought for a number of years. That would seem to be the absolute most logical. Just a thought. JMV, Carly instructed Chris to have urgency this offseason. In response, Chris waited until the last minute and could potentially lose both Alec Pierce and Jones. Asking someone to change their ways after 9 or 10 years is a massive ask. I would tell you this. Either A, she incredibly believes in him because you bring him back for a 10th year with little to no results, or B, which is a lot worse, you're bringing it back because of money situations or financial terms. That would suck even worse. So take your pick on that. This has to be, simply put, a strategy. I know you guys are all laughing, but how else would it make any sense? Now, that is a conversation we're going to continue to have right there. I saw this a little bit earlier, too. We were just talking to Rapheal Davis of the Big Ten Network. Sam King, who covers the Boilermakers, that Matt Painter did address. We were talking about this yesterday, the social media outcry from Boilermaker fans. You're having essentially Boilermaker on Boilermaker crime right here. Boilermaker fans all over Braden Smith and others as we have never seen it. And Matt suggesting that Purdue shouldn't blast Purdue. JMV, why not franchise him? I'll stop right there. You're thinking you're going to save some money out of this. Then if someone really wants him, wouldn't we get 2 firsts for him, which would be better anyway? This sounds like a cost-cutting measure on the surface. Again, I think I've hit like 3 or 4 different dynamics that are in play here. James Boyd and I will talk about this at the morning show on The Athletic coming up on the other side. It is fascinating if it works. If it doesn't, it's usual. Nature of it. By the way, the Fan Invitational 2026 golf outing presented by Franciscan Health. That is coming up on April the 30th. Do you have your early bird yet? Get in, save $25 off per person or $100 off for foursome for you and your friends with that foursome. The early bird special now until Friday at 6 o'clock. Legends down in Franklin. This is going to be outstanding. Plus, make sure when you put together your ensemble cast, your foursome, for example, you find somebody within your group that can shoot the basketball, because the shooting competition with me, much like we had last August, will be done again. So be there. The Fan Invitational Golf Outing, April the 30th. Early bird special, your chance to save going on right now. Log on. Make sure you and your friends are a part of it. We would love to see you there. 1075thefan.com. Strategizing with the Colts. Is that what we're doing? Are we making a mockery of it? James Boyd and I have that discussion coming up on the other side. Stream the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. The transition tag for Daniel Jones, and lots of questions we shall answer coming up next. 93.5, 1075 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We got Sting tickets to give away. We're out a little bit early, 5:45 today. Butler tomorrow, Hinkle Fieldhouse before Creighton and Butler. There is a media three-point shooting competition with the people from the Final Four coming up on Thursday at Hinkle. I believe that's just I'm going to go over there and I think be a part of that, too, for a little bit. Speaking of hoops, we'll get to our good friend James Boyd of the morning show and then of The Athletic in just a second. I did want to remind everybody, too, Daniel Jones transition tag still on the out regarding Alec Pierce, regarding the possible strategy here by the Colts and the tack that they're taking. But 4 players tagged by today's 4 p.m. deadline. George Pickens, wide receiver of the Cowboys, Breece Hall, running back of the Jets, Kyle Pitts, the tight end of the Falcons, and, of course, with the transition tag, Colts quarterback Daniel Jones. For more on that, he is a Sunday basketball-playing colleague of mine and from the Fan Morning Show, weekday morning 7 until 10 a.m., the Fan Morning Show here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, and a writer covering the Colts for The Athletic, James Boyd, joins us. What do you think about me in a media three-point shooting competition on Thursday at Hinkle? Think I'll be okay?
I think you'll be all right, man, as long as you get a couple warm-up shots. You get the flow going and you're good.
Flowing. I'll get those warm-up shots tomorrow when I'm out there, too. Hey, speaking of that, that's a strategy. Is this a strategy that the Colts and Chris Ballard are taking, or is this as out of control as some Colts fans seem to think it might be?
It makes sense to tag Jones, but I also think that the Colts are probably being a little bit cheap here because if they really wanted to say to Daniel Jones, you're not going anywhere, you're our quarterback, then we'll just pay the non-exclusive franchise tag, which would force another team to have to give up 2 first-round picks plus the money to get Daniel Jones away from you, whereas now it's all about money. So in theory, John, you can wait until July 10th if you're a team that is scrambling for a quarterback and swoop in and make a big offer to get Daniel Jones, and if the Colts aren't able to match that, he could leave, and you're left with nothing. No draft picks, no quarterback. So, to me, it was a $6 million difference between the non-exclusive franchise tag and the transition tag, and the Colts are trying to be, I guess, prudent and a little frugal there, and it could pay off in the long run. But, again, if you're tagging them, I think you should just be committed to that, fully committed to that, instead of trying to give, I guess, another avenue for teams to kind of poach them.
Do you consider this a significant gamble?
I do think it is a gamble, but I understand why the Colts did it. And I'm not defending their overall process, to be clear, for those who are rolling their eyes, because I think the listeners are right to be frustrated with the Colts process and what they've done every offseason for the last decade, it seems like, under Chris Ballard. However, quarterback will always matter more than wide receiver. That's just the bottom line. So as soon as Daniel Jones and his reps were saying, we're not going to sign, the Colts really had no other choice but to make sure they bring him back and tag him because they don't have a backup plan. There is no world where they're trying to hand the keys to Riley Leonard to start the whole season for them in 2026, let alone try to get Anthony Richardson back in the fold after he's requested a trade.
Yeah, there's nobody within that organization that is this out to lunch right now in this situation. I know that I've been as critical as anybody for years right now, but the thing, James, that I have talked about so far is if you don't have both these guys, why are you jacking around with anything? And that includes Shade Steichen and Chris Ballard especially. If you don't have these two guys, which essentially is trying to hopefully put you back in the same spot you were, for example, in the first 8+ weeks of the season before Jones was injured, if you don't do that, why is really anybody here? Why are they not starting new at this point? That would be my question. So there's really no way, I think, that you're not going into this and doing this transition tag with Daniel Jones without an understanding of what is to come with both your quarterback in this case and your soon-to-be free agent wide receiver.
Oh, absolutely. But again, John, it's not a guarantee that they're a package deal. Alec Pierce made it very clear that he wanted clarity at quarterback throughout his representation, that he wanted clarity at quarterback before he made a decision. Now he has every team, seemingly, or at least not every team, but a lot of teams who can now swoop in and make him an offer. And yes, clarity at quarterback helps in Indianapolis, but who's to say that when he said at the end of the season, oh man, getting Daniel Jones will go a long way towards retaining me, who's to say he wouldn't change his mind when someone else comes in with a big bag of money? So, in my opinion, I do think that it will be wise and honestly from a business perspective for Alec Pierce not to sign a contract over the next couple of days, because the Colts, technically, they can sign an in-house free agent like Alec Pierce before Monday, because that's when all the other teams can jump in and make their case. But for Alec, if you were in his shoes, John, what would you do? You know what I mean? Like, why would you allow yourself not to get all of your demand and not to see what everybody else is bidding? I mean, I know you love working for 107.5 The Fan, but if somebody else came along and say, hey, we'll give you, $10 million more, you might be, changing mics or something like that. And I'll love to keep you around. Don't leave me. But I'm just saying that from that perspective, it's still a big, big risk.
So I'm assuming this whole, let's just say if this works out to the tone that many believe, and that is quarterback and wide receiver being back for what is a lame duck, essentially a season for a coach and a general manager. Hopefully they win, but let's just say that that's the path in which they're taking. How much is that going to ultimately compromise Michael Pittman Jr.? We all thought that was going in. He ultimately could be a cap casualty. Would this situation not certainly confirm that is logically going to be the case sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I tried to do some digging on this, and of course, there's a lot of people talking about what's possible. Chris Ballard, it's not a foregone conclusion that he's not going to be on our team. That's just the hypothetical that you all put out there that he's not going to be back. And then I reached out to some other folks on the other side, and they're like, he's worth that money. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second now, you can't pay everybody. So realistically, yes, I do think that this could affect Michael Pittman Jr. because ultimately you have to decide now between keeping Michael Pittman Jr. on your roster and that huge cap hit, or perhaps trying to get him to restructure or outright cutting him and using that money to retain Alec Pierce. So I don't see the Colts trying to pay big money, $20+ million for two wide receivers, especially if one of them is descending while the other one is ascending. So we'll see what it means. We'll see how loyal Michael Pittman Jr. is. I still think he's a good player, and I think that he could be brought back on a significantly less contract. But who's to say he might not want to go elsewhere if someone else gives him a decent amount of money if the Colts cut him. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but realistically, if I had to bet on it, John, I would go with Alec being back in 2026 and Michael Pittman Jr. not being back.
James Boyd of the Fan Morning Show and writer covering the Colts for the Athletics on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. There's no way in hell anybody has interest above this whole transition tag of, $37+ million. Nobody has that level of financial interest in bringing in Daniel Jones around the NFL, do they? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, the only two teams I can think of would be the Minnesota Vikings, who are over the cap right now. So in English, for those listening, that means that they can't afford to sign Daniel Jones right now. They have to do a lot of roster gymnastics and try to get cap compliant, which basically means they have to create enough money to sign him. But he does have a good relationship with their franchise. He does know Kevin O'Connell, their head coach. So there is a little bit more of a tentacle there than any other team. And then the other team that I was thinking of, this is just me, not really a report, just, hey, you need a quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers, could they be interested in a guy like Daniel Jones, given that they don't really have an answer with Aaron Rodgers still kind of mulling retirement? So those are the two teams that come to mind. And again, I do think there's a possibility, a strong possibility, that Daniel Jones will be back and he won't get poached. But the transition tag makes it a lot easier because you have a team that could come in and say, you know what, we'll give you $45 million for 1 year. And we don't care because, it's a 1-year deal and we don't have to give up any draft capital to get you. So it's not set in stone. And again, this could drag out for months if it comes to that. If a team is interested and desperate enough, you could look up on July 1st or July 4th, a holiday, and be like, wait a second, a team just made an offer for Daniel Jones. This means the Colts will just match it no matter what happens because they cannot allow him to leave.
I think, to me, and there are plenty of reasons to go, all right, the Colts are going to screw this up. But I can't imagine that they believe this, to me, is a foregone conclusion that this is the highest that would be paid for him, and they're not worried about any outside influences being detrimental to their quarterback moving forward. That has to be that. Why else would you think otherwise, I guess?
Oh, yeah. I think they're trying to basically call his bluff.
Yeah.
I mean, they like Daniel Jones, but they're probably saying, look, you're coming off a torn Achilles. We love you. We want you back. But this is the price point we are willing to bring you back on. And if you can go out there and get a better deal, so be it. We'll match it. But I think they're probably saying, let's see how realistic another team is in trying to pursue you. And also, keep in mind, John, most teams don't like to even make bids when it comes to any type of tag because they don't want to negotiate for another team just for the other team to match it. So I do think if there is an offer, which I still think is kind of a long shot, if there is one, say from the Vikings, it would have to be very lucrative to make the Colts just flat out not want to match it. So I do think that they'll be willing to go into that $40 million range if they had to. But again, another team has to be willing to do that in the first place. So we'll see. And the last thing I'll say is I don't blame Daniel Jones one bit for using every bit of his leverage to get as much money as he can coming off a dedicating injury. He does not owe the Colts anything, in my opinion, because you're a football player. They would cut you in a heartbeat if you couldn't play. And on the flip side, the moment you can get paid, get what's yours, young man.
I don't. I tell you what's really kind of sad for me is the leverage that Daniel Jones believes he has, and that the Colts would have to buy into any sort of leverage that he believes he has. It's just really bad on both ends right here. It's kind of the state of the state for the Colts, I guess, to a degree, is it not?
Yeah, but you got to think back to what led to this even being a possibility. You don't have any leverage as the Colts because you don't have any first-round picks until 2028. The only other two quarterbacks you have on your roster are Riley Leonard, a sixth-round pick, and Anthony Richardson, who the last time he was practicing couldn't see fully. Now he has regained his vision, to my knowledge, but he wants out. So you have no backup plan. You have no contingency plans. You have no plan B, C, or D. So now, because of that, you're looking at the rest of the league and you're saying, do we want to roll the dice on another quarterback like Malik Willis, Kyler Murray, guys who have their own warts, or do we want the guy who we believe, and this is Chris Ballard, not me saying this, that through the first 10 games of the year had him looking like a top 4 team in the NFL. So, you know what, John? You talked about working on your jumper. I think you should have worked on that arm.
There's no doubt about that. I completely screwed that up. Long ago. Long ago. It's James Boyd, the Fan Morning Show, and The Athletic. He's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I always kind of look at, who ultimately could get here defensively from the Bengals because of Lou Anarumo. And, again, you get defensive end Trey Hendrickson was not tagged, so he's going to become a free agent. And the only reason to me it makes sense is because the Colts like to deal at times with dinged-up players they believe can come in maybe at a discount, a former Kmart blue light special. Do you think he's ultimately going to be a target, or is that a lot about nothing in your estimation?
I think he could be a real target for sure. And I get that some people might be saying, wait a second, Chris Ballard just told us that they want to get younger and faster on defense. He's not young. He's coming off an injury, but you also have to keep in mind that you need just straight up production. The free agents that you have going out of the door as edge rushers, Kwity Paye, Samson Ebukam, and I'm blanking on the third, Tyquan Lewis, those three combined for 9 sacks last year. Latu had 8.5 by himself. He's the only edge rusher you have that's really worth anything at this point in time. So I do think you have to kind of compromise and say, hey, even though Trey Hendrickson might be older, he is still, when healthy at least, a very good and productive player, and certainly better than whatever they had last year. So I do think that should be a real pursuit for them. But again, you have to lock down, hopefully, Daniel Jones on a long-term deal, now that he's on a tag, Alec Pierce on a long-term deal, and then you kind of get a better landscape of how much money you have to work with to, retool the rest of your roster.
Hey, James, what do you think more of the gamble is here? What the Pacers are doing with the top 4, or what the Colts are doing with their quarterback and or wide receiver situation right here?
I think that the Pacers are taking a bigger gamble.
Me too.
Because ping pong balls, man, they can be cruel. They can be great.
Oh, they're going to get, the NBA is going to completely blank them over too, James. You know that.
I know. And I'm thinking of, when I was growing up in the Chicago area, the Bulls got the number 1 pick when it was like a 1% chance to get Derrick Rose, and it was like a storybook thing. But yeah, I've been living in Indianapolis now for about 5 years, and Unfortunately, I feel like the storybook endings do not happen around here. Outside of Bloomington, an hour away with the Hoosiers in football, I do think as far as the basketball scene goes, it can be kind of cruel sometimes, especially for the Pacers. So we'll see what it comes down to. I do think that the basketball guys kind of owe them this one when it comes to the ping pong balls. But again, nothing's guaranteed, man.
And you can also see the difference in thoughts with the fan base, especially with the different organizations. They believe what the Colts are doing right now. They describe it as malpractice, and what the Pacers are doing would be savvy, right? And I happen to agree with you on the Pacers. You have to, when you have a bad season like this, and I know you get your pivot, and you had to have you wanted a big, and you get Zubats, but I don't think this deal's anywhere near where it should be. I just think you're going to regret if you end up being a top 4 type of team, and because this is not a top 4 pick, if you're outside of that, you don't get your lottery selection. That to me is so problematic across the board.
It is, and I don't know if I loved the protections on it. I know why the Pacers did it, but here's what I'll say, John. The Pacers have earned the right to take that sort of risk. You know what I mean? Because over the last few years, what have they done where you could look back on and say that was the wrong decision? Whereas with the Colts, it feels like every decision that they make, you're like, that was dumb. And so I think the Pacers have earned the right, again, to roll the dice, to be a little bit risky, and we'll see how it works out because, again, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I still think they're in a good position. They found their center of the future. He is, I guess, cheaper when it comes to the new NBA contracts as far as cap space goes. And I think it also shows, John, that you're telling Tyrese Halliburton, look, man, we're not waiting for the draft only to save you. We're trying to build a championship roster. That way, when you're healthy, we're going for it right again. And I think that does matter when it comes to dealing with your franchise player and making sure that he's comfortable here and valued here and knows that he's not, wasting a gap year being injured.
All right, so over-under tomorrow night, 28 points. Not 28 shots taken, which may be even more accurate, of Benedict Mathurin against his former team for the first time.
I'm gonna take the over. I think that he'll get up for these types of games. I'm gonna say he scores 31 tomorrow night. But I also think the Pacers are gonna win because they seem to always, get the little like a rivalry type of wins out of the way. So that's one I think that they could kind of sneakily beat them on the road. But I'm looking forward to that one because as flawed as Benedict Mathurin is as a player, he still is very talented, and I will always love
Me too.
how much of a competitor he is.
Me too. Not a lot of guys have that same build and philosophy, James. And I say the same thing. I always tell people, because everybody roots against Miles now, okay, but I don't want anybody rooting against Mathurin because that's exactly when you describe what you want as far as the mentality, the focus, and the personality of your NBA player. That's it right there. That's it.
Absolutely. I mean, I just go back to his backstory. I mean, the kids played, everywhere. He basically got it out the mud, as they say. So growing up in Canada, having his brother die young and kind of using that as motivation throughout his life to help his mom and his sister, going down to Mexico to play at the NBA Academy, going to Arizona, and then coming here. I mean, he's dealt with so many, real life things that it doesn't surprise me that he is absolutely fearless in a basketball setting.
So James Boyd's got you with Kevin Bowen and Jeff Rickard coming up tomorrow morning, 7 until 10 a.m. That's a fan morning show. And the latest regarding the Athletic on the Colts and the transition tag of Daniel Jones. When do you think we're going to hear any movement regarding Alec Pierce? Are we going to hear something break, some stories maybe? I know you're working on it too, but any news regarding that, especially for those that believe maybe the wheels have already been put in motion by the Colts here?
Yeah, I do know that they're working, and, I mean, it's a cop-out answer. It could happen within the next week or so, but from my perspective, John, I just don't see why Alec would rush into a new contract when he can just wait. Even if he still wants to come back to the Colts, just wait and see what the rest of the market is for you. See if they can drive your price and your value up even more because it's a violent game, man. This might be his one chance. He turned 26 in May. This might be his one chance to get a huge payday in the NFL. You don't want to rush that decision.
Yeah, James, I appreciate you hopping on here, man. We'll see you on Sunday, right, for Hoops Sunday morning.
You know it, man, and I'll give you a little advice on your three-pointer.
Short, baby, short. Get it over the blanking rim is one of my favorites, too.
There you go,
Beautiful.
man.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate you.
All right, brother.
James Boyd of The Athletic, the Fan Morning Show, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Sting tickets for Old National Center. That's the Mirage coming up in October. Got those for you. And more on Daniel Jones, the transition tag, Alec Pierce, his situation, and a lot more before we close things out here on this Tuesday. Don't go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge. YouTube Live, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Got an idea for you. That's Premier Weight Loss. You want to get started on your very own weight loss journey? 317-643-4444. That's PWLND.com. 2 Indy area locations. Let's start here with the programs that they offer are incredible. I'm down 80 pounds, and you can get on a similar path, and you can see those results even more if you work and design alongside those great folks there like Thomas and Sam and Lauren that will help you along the way reach those goals. And PWLND.com and Premier Weight Loss, they offer these options too. I'm doing the electronic toning, which is outstanding right now. They have skin tightening, Botox, other aspects of all this in one place with Premier Weight Loss. But GLP-1 weight loss injections, if you're starting on your weight loss journey, go no place else than PWLND.com. That's Premier Weight Loss, 317-643-4444. Get started today. Make sure you tell them that I sent you. Premier Weight Loss, 317-643-4444 today.
The Ride with JMV.
It takes him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, who wants to go see Sting in October near Rapheal National Center? Crank this up, James. One of my favorites from Sting. Solo work from 1987. We'll Be Together is a hell of a song. Number 30 on the text line at 239-1070. Sting in October, Rapheal National Center. That will be a great show. So get on the text line, 317-239-1070 right now. Text line is open. Number 30 is going to go see Sting. The transition tag for Daniel Jones. The wait and see on what I would guess hopefully is up the sleeve of the Colts and how they're going to move forward with both Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, because otherwise this would seem like a fruitless attempt. Now, who else is going to offer more money for Daniel Jones out there? And then you can save money on the franchise tag using the transition tag. I get what you're saying. And then what about Alec Pierce? Does he really, truly want to be back? Does he want to be one of the two, as both Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard described last week at the Combine, the cornerstones to build around with this group? 239-1070 is that number. I knew he would have something to say. Mike in Brooklyn is up first here in the 5 o'clock hour. Mike, what are we thinking?
Hey, JMV, I just wanted to commend you because you perfectly cut to the chase on this whole thing. You know, irregardless of what we think, fans and everything, from their perspective, this is a done deal. You have to get this done. You know, there's no other options for you guys, whether we agree with it or the direction you're going in. Steichen and Ballard have to get this done. I mean, I've never felt like Ballard was incompetent. You know, as a GM, I disagree with him a lot of things that he does philosophically. He puts too much emphasis on the D line and the trenches, and he, ignores, quarterbacks and other positions. But if they don't get both of these guys back, I would say that is total incompetence, especially from a guy who they're so guarded about everything, injuries, and they don't give you any information on that. Well, we'll see, and yeah. And then to come out and say two guys, basically, these are our guys, and you don't have them under contract. It's just it's bizarre when you think about it, really.
I would say this too, Mike, and I have said this, if you don't bring both these guys back in this season, knowing what you know and knowing what you need, then there's no reason for Steichen nor Ballard to be here either. And I think that's when we found out exactly the path they were going to take with these two in particular. Given the circumstances that you're bringing back the general manager and coach, when if you weren't with the intent on bringing your quarterback and your wide receiver back, then in this case, I don't know why you'd be jacking with any of this. Truly.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, I wouldn't have moved on from Ballard this year because you bring in Steichen back, so I figured bring them both back. I would have moved on from Ballard with Reich, 3 years ago, just to restart it. So, that it's
no doubt
they're on the same timelines, but when you're talking about what's going on right now, I mean, you have two guys. I mean, there's a possibility that you could lose both. I didn't think that they were gonna. I thought they were gonna franchise Pierce because I say, all right, why would you transition Daniel Jones? You could pretty much, just like you said, you don't have to transition him. You could just franchise Pierce this way. At least you got him, and then let Daniel Jones, work. Say, hey, we're gonna work on it for the rest of the week. If we can't get a deal, then you go out and find your best deal and give us an opportunity to match it. Supposedly they have such a great relationship with him. Shane Steichen's going out to Pacers games and everything with the guy, and he wants to be in the organization. So it's kind of bizarre. The whole thing.
So why would you not? And I know this is notoriously not the case because we're talking about the quarterback position. Why wouldn't you franchise tag? And to me, it's all about saving money in the process too. But you wouldn't franchise tag Alec Pierce, and then you're negotiating from what I think is a stronger position, are you not, considering the circumstances of the injury of Daniel Jones. But it doesn't seem that way. It almost seems like that they know that there's a threshold in which Daniel Jones and the interest level as far as financially with other teams out there, there's a threshold for that, and they decided to go ahead and take the value of the transition tag and then do something long-term and then deal with something longer-term with Alec Pierce. So I would have to think there's a strategy of savings in all this that would be involved. Is there not?
Yeah, I gotta believe that they're going to get. I don't think Ballard is incompetent. I think that they probably have deals kind of in place, but you never know until it's done, you know. And as far as Daniel Jones goes, you know, when Michael Pittman made that statement a couple of weeks ago about his leg, and did we ever get a clarity on when he suffered the fibula injury? Because I went back and I looked at that Atlanta Falcons game, and I could not see anything where would even give you an indication that he was injured. So did he really do this in practice, or I always thought that he got hurt in the Falcons game and they just covered it up for 2 weeks.
I thought that's what they did too. I haven't gone back to look, but that's exactly what I thought they did. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Just a thought. Got anything else, buddy? I got to run here, Mike. But I appreciate your input.
We're going to hear some more. They're both going to be done. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of conversation.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, well, that's a level of incompetence that, and it would be incompetence for them. I mean, they're sinking the boat that they'd be a part of, that's the reason why you have to believe that something, Mike. Thank you for the call. Is in place beyond what we know right now, or at least that is their feeling. Joe Lunardi joins us coming up on Thursday, right? His latest bracketology has IU in as the final team in the last four in. The first four out, Auburn, San Diego State, VCU, and Virginia Tech. That's according to Lunardi. I believe last check, does he still have the Boilermakers as a 3 seed in the South? Lunardi joins us coming up on Thursday. Hinkle Fieldhouse coming up tomorrow. A host of Butler folks will join us on the show. We start at 3 o'clock. Look for me at Hinkle Gutshot Cocktail Time tomorrow at Hinkle Fieldhouse too. 3 o'clock we start coming up tomorrow with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Excuse me, sir. There's been a little problem in the cockpit.
The cockpit? What is it?
It's the little room in the front of the plane where the pilots sit. But that's not important right now.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So, is this just a Colts financial gamble to save? Because I understand what you're saying, and I would agree with everybody suggesting what market value other than the Colts would Daniel Jones possibly have in excess of $37+ million? I completely agree with that. So a strategic gamble, and do they believe that regardless of the circumstances we're talking about right now, that both quarterback and wide receiver ultimately will be back? Discussion we've had, podcast across the board, 1075thefan.com. Again, the Fan Invitational 2026 Golf Outing, 1075thefan.com. Take advantage right now of the early bird special. $25 off per person, $100 off for your foursome. I'm going to be hooping against you guys out there. You're going to be playing golf. We drink, we eat, we celebrate. But we do it in April the 30th. Legends Golf Club in Franklin. The Fan Invitational Golf Outing presented by Franciscan Health. Log on 1075thefan.com. And make sure you are a part of the event today. Number 19, Miami of Ohio, trying to win their 30th unblemished of the season. They get Toledo in Oxford, Ohio, coming up later on tonight at 7 o'clock. Late games, Big Ten. Number 9, Nebraska, UCLA's at 11 o'clock start coming up later on tonight. I'm going to be at Hinkle tomorrow for Butler and Creighton. I'll look for everybody out there coming up tomorrow. And then, of course, you have IU at home against Minnesota, and that's followed by on the Big Ten Network tomorrow. Purdue on the road at Evanston against Northwestern. Rapheal Davis of the Big Ten Network a little bit earlier. That podcast, 1075thefan.com. Greg Rakestraw a little bit earlier. James Boyd a little bit earlier. And the over-under set tomorrow night. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. 28 points. Would you take the over or under for Benedict Mathurin in a Clipper uniform against his former team tomorrow night at the Intuit Dome, Southern California? Now, I did say over-under on 28 shot attempts, but 28 points. Over-under, Benedict Mathurin. I'll tell you who looks like a mess, and I know a lot of you are happy about it. Miles Turner is a discombobulated mess. Nothing. Zero zilch. He looks toasted and done. Tyrese Halliburton will forever be his savior. And I know you get paid and you go someplace else that's going to pay you, but that's something you better recognize. And he wouldn't be playing with him this year. But still, what an absolute mess if you watch the return of Giannis last night. And the Bucks still got depanced at home by the Celtics. Yikes. Derek writes this: the Colts are $4 million over the cap right now. We're talking about a major cap casualty, certainly in terms of what you're going to witness with one Michael Pittman Jr. I think everybody is believing in that. Jay is at 239-1070. I know, Jay, jump on here. You've been on hold for a while. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, John, how was your trip to Terre Haute on Sunday?
Terre Haute was awesome on Sunday. Went over there, did some fun things at the Holman Center. The Sycamores got a win in front of me right there. Shot the 3 well. I went to Charlie's Bar afterwards, had a couple of beers. Awesome time.
Because I've been to the Terre Haute Casino a couple times.
I've heard good stories. I have not been in there, but I've heard good stories about how nice of a place that it is. Yes.
I wanted to address the issue of Darian DeVries, and it's okay to not hold a freshman or sophomore accountable. He doesn't make any of his players accountable, especially his son, who's 23 years old.
So you're wondering, and Jay, thank you for the call. You're wondering why Darian DeVries doesn't play Sicily at all. Yet he plays his son and others, especially as his son in this case. His thinking is, and this is drawing my own conclusion, and it's not one I agree with, he is thinking that the guys that he's played, certainly that have been ineffective here recently to the tune of 4 straight losses, those guys are better than what he has on the bench in Trent Sicily. Sicily didn't get up off the bench on Sunday. Frankly, you can tell me all day that kid's not ready to play, not strong enough, not Big Ten worthy, but it's not like that you have a lot of competition on that team that would be doing a lot better. I can understand you want to play your starting 5, but not to give this guy any minutes seems stupid to me. It just does. It's not meaning you're going to beat Michigan State. It's not going to be the difference between winning and losing, but no minutes? He's that weak, that ineffective compared to what else you have out there? Come on. He's going with guys that he hopes can get him a win, and certainly that has been fleeting lately. They get Minnesota on senior evening coming up tomorrow night. 93 WIBC for that with the call with voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher. 6:30 pregame show on 93 WIBC tomorrow, 5:30. I'm going to be out at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I'll see you well before 3, but hopefully after 3. I'll get you set for Creighton and Butler. 5:30 coverage begins here on the Fan. 6 o'clock is that tip time. Boilermakers on the road. They take on Northwestern tomorrow night. Transition tag, Daniel Jones. The soap opera between that and Alec Pierce, the soon-to-be free agent wide receiver, continues. We'll have dialogue about that beginning at 3 tomorrow on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Have a great, safe night.